Donald Trump, as a defendant, has a court strategy that's pretty well known by now. He will bluster and claim he's going to take on any investigator. It's kind of a PR thing to project the idea that he's not intimidated. That's how he played the Mueller probe, which Weissman, of course, has a link to. Trump claimed he would go face-to-face with Mueller. He would take questions. He stoked headlines about something that he actually never did. He never went in and took live questions. Then Trump talked tough about the New York Attorney General leading this current fraud case, but again ducked her questions and subpoena until he was literally held in civil contempt and forced by a judge to show up for a deposition where, if you remember all the way back to that, he had to go, so he did, but all the bluster faded into Trump repeatedly pleading the fifth, and I don't mean a couple times. He did it over 400 times. And that record is why it has been so unusual to now see Trump on the stand just last week. This is in the same New York court case where he was running from the AG's deposition and then avoiding her, not wanting to take her questions or tell the truth under oath about his actions. That is his legal right, but it was a long way from his initial bluster. Today, well, he's claiming to talk tough again. He's posting a photo of this same AG, claiming she sits in court all day for weeks while crime goes rampant. Well, the problem with that post is the Attorney General is in court dealing with Trump's alleged fraud. That is how the civil courts deal with lawbreaking. So the post, even as an attack, doesn't actually make sense. Now, Trump is headed back to the stand, along with family members that he's tapped to help run the Trump org. Don Jr. scheduled to testify tomorrow, followed by Eric Trump and then Ivanka next week, and Trump himself. And the lawyers going after the Trump org alleged fraud, they're just hoping Don Jr. will be as loud on the stand as he's been on some of these right-wing interviews.
But they want to throw Trump in jail for 1,000 years and or the death penalty. This is sort of like the start of the Bolshevik Revolution. Right? We don't like you, so we're going to confiscate property. We're going to do these things. My cabin in upstate New York, because it's owned in an LLC, that is a corporation, and therefore because I'm a part of it somehow, that has to be disbanded.
My cabin. Well, Trump Jr. there sounds absolutely horrified that the corporate ownership structure, which they picked and they designed for their self-interest to house the basic legal architecture of the cabin's ownership, is no longer serving his interests. But this was their choice. Not everybody, indeed, we don't have the data handy, but a lot of people who own cabins don't house them in shell companies. Now, this fraud civil trial is a big threat to Trump's business empire, while he also faces 3 separate criminal trials, 2 of them likely carrying prison time for anyone who's convicted on his charges, although he's legally presumed innocent. The Washington, D.C. case will come first there in March. Trump also lashing out at prosecutors and potential witnesses there. In fact, he began this week doubling his gag orders from 1 in New York to 2, Jack Smith winning the fight over gagging Trump in D.C., where the defendant, Trump, recently attacked his own chief of staff and Attorney General Bill Barr. Now, we know Barr was a January 6th committee witness. He certainly could be a key witness in the D.C. coup case, depending on which threads they're pulling. Trump went basically all over attacking Barr with personal insults, saying he couldn't do the job. But it was really a dashed-out, hasty response to this.
His verbal skills are limited. And so if you get him away from very, 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 the adjectives sort of, they're unfamiliar to him.
Now, that's what a burn is supposed to sound like, I guess, from a MAGA attorney general. A Barr is having his fun or his cosplay at poking back and forth with Trump. Of course, he supported everything Trump did until the end, until he lost. And he wasn't in on the coup stuff, best we can tell. He certainly fact-checked the voter fraud lies. But the point is not whether Trump has limited verbal skills or even uses the word very too much. He can say very as much as he wants. The point is not even that Trump is just clashing in public with his own former aides, as he's done in many different ways. The point is how much evidence is piling up, witnesses flipping. And witnesses can provide the toughest evidence against the defendant. It's live testimony. What you see on the screen, what we showed you in our breakdown this week of both coup cases, is how 3 Trump aides confessed in Georgia. Meadows reportedly cooperating as a DOJ witness in D.C. Meadows awaiting his own criminal trial in Georgia, his own trial there. And now a few others are basically in that bottom row. They're deciding, well, do they want to take one of the deals like their former colleagues, or are they going to roll the dice with their own liberty at stake? That's the backdrop for Donald Trump taking these extreme risks with witness attacks. And they clearly have an echo of sort of mob or John Gotti tactics, just like when Trump dubbed former lawyer Michael Cohen a, quote, rat, which was the first time anyone who actually is in charge of law enforcement, the president overseas, the DOJ, was actually saying you're a rat if you cooperate with the U.S. government. That was a tell. It sounded guilty. So as Donald Trump sounds and even at times acts like an actual mafia defendant, how do we make sense of this? Well, as promised, we are joined by Andrew Weissmann, a former Mueller special counsel prosecutor, former general counsel for the FBI, who has also overseen many big mafia cases when he was in Brooklyn, along with another case we're going to get to. So it's all piling up, cases on cases. Welcome back, sir.
Nice to be here.
What do you see in the risks Trump is taking there, the way the gag order may or may not constrain him, and why his odds do look a little worse than, say, a month ago?
Well, obviously in Georgia, there are a number of people who have pleaded guilty. It remains to be seen exactly how useful they will be. There are signs that Jenna Ellis may be the only one who's sort of fully cooperating. But we'll see whether Chesebro and Powell may also be as cooperative as she appears to be. I would note that the Georgia state judge has just recently reversed himself and said that he is going to make public the files for Ms. Powell and Mr. Chesebro and Ms. Ellis. So we may learn a little bit more. For instance, they each wrote a apology to the Georgia citizens, and particularly with Mr. Chesebro, who pled to something that's so core to the January 6th conspiracy. It'll be interesting to see what exactly his apology says and what we learn from that. Obviously, the big news last week was with respect to the reporting with respect to Mark Meadows and whether he was offered immunity by the feds. And if that's the case, you know, he could be a really, truly devastating witness. That's all on the criminal side. And then, as you mentioned, there's this ongoing civil case, which Donald Trump seems to be showing even more interest in than many of the criminal cases that are pending.